Also wish to express our concern or our issue of including those individuals in everyday life as well in the community. And our 21 regional centers stand ready, of course, with lots of experience in moving folks from developmental centers into the community. And let's not ever forget that all folks in our system are regional center clients, regardless of where they live, and we're committed to making it happen. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and staff. Karen Lang with Scioto Antwi on behalf of the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors. We've been meeting with the department for the last few weeks, and we're so thankful for being so generous with their time. The county has developed in partnership with the Parent Hospital Association a proposal to build potentially an FQHC at the former site, which would be able to serve folks that are moving out along with clients at the regional center. We're very excited about that prospect. We've put in meeting requests with all of the relevant folks that need to hear about it in detail, and we're really hopeful that we could move forward with something like that as the center is closed down. So thank you very much. Again,
thank you.
Big thanks to the department for all the time they've given us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members, Bob Giovatti with the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. We'd just like to attach ourselves to many of the comments that have been made already, particularly those of the folks from ARCA. Our organization, too, supports the expeditious and efficient closing down of the remaining developmental centers. But one of the issues that's been articulated repeatedly by the individuals that we serve is the concern that this be a seamless continuum of care and effective transition. It's a very traumatic transition in some cases for a number of these folks, and we just are very, very optimistic that the closures can be carried out in the most unintimidating and comforting way possible for the sake of all concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Got it? Thank you. Evelyn Abu Hassan, Disability Rights, California. Just a few comments. I think the analysis really lays out our recommendations. We are supportive of all the closures. We do have concerns with the Department of Social Services regulations around the use of seclusion and restraint in the enhanced behavioral homes. We appreciate the Department of Developmental Services trying to address our concerns. They want to use seclusion and restraint for in excess of 4 hours, and we think that's inappropriate. They don't even use that in the developmental center. So we'd like to see that addressed somehow, potentially in trailer bill language to make sure that that's not used excessively. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just want to announce we're going to make a brief transition. I need to make a presentation. We'll continue with public comment, and what I'd like to ask afterwards is that the department address the concerns that were raised about staffing. While I cannot be here to hear it, my staff will be here, and I'll be looking forward to hearing what the resolution to those issues are that have been raised in public comment today. So thank you, and Assembly members Chu and Bonta will take us through the remaining two issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy Soliday, Alameda County Developmental Disabilities Council. We represent the interests of over 11,000 individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Alameda County. We thank Karen Toto for her testimony. Certainly the council supports the closure of the DCs with the support of appropriate community resources. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Seeing no additional public comment on that issue, we'll go on to our next issue, issue number 3 for today's hearing, Governor's Proposals for Developmental Centers. Looks like we have our panel is all assembled. So let's start with Nancy Bargman.
Thank you, Mr. Bonta. This John Doyle, Developmental Services. I'll be addressing this particular issue. The agenda does a good job of laying out the adjustments that are being proposed for the developmental centers for 2016-17. Rather than go through each one, I'd just like to highlight a few of the more significant ones. The first is in the area of staffing adjustment. While the department is proposing an $8.8 million increase and a total reduction of 129.2 positions, 63.1 of those are level of care, and the remainder are non-level of care positions. Just like to point out that we are no longer tying staffing levels precisely to population, because the population has declined at each of the each of the developmental centers to a point where it's no longer appropriate to try to reduce staff as people move out into the community. We need to keep staffing levels at certain ratios so that we can meet certification and licensing requirements. The next issue I'd like to talk briefly about is the workers' compensation claims that the department is attempting to resolve. We're proposing $15 million in 2016-17 to settle outstanding workers' compensation claims associated with the employees at the developmental centers. To the extent we can close these claims prior to the regional centers closing, we're able to draw down federal funds. So this proposal has a twofold purpose. It reduces the state liability for future workers' compensation claims, and it allows us to draw down federal funds to do that. So we see that as a distinct advantage. The final issue I'd like to address, I know, is one of concern to the community. The regional centers, the developmental centers were audited by Department of Healthcare Services, as they typically are, to ensure that all services billed for are appropriate and are allowable under federal law. There were some issues found during the last audit. There were claims totaling $55.4 million for the period from 2008-9 through 2010-11. And these overpayments were related to a number of billed services, things like the operation of the facility after the last individual has left. It's commonly called warm shutdown. The department was billing for that. There were also issues related to unliquidated encumbrances, so there were not documents behind. We had encumbered money, but we didn't have documents behind them to liquidate those encumbrances. And then there were issues, again, as I mentioned, related to workers' compensation claims for closed facilities. So what the department has done is we've settled $13 million of the $55.4 million due. So we still need to reimburse the federal government for $42.4 million. What we're proposing is, when we looked at the November estimate on the regional center side, at November we were projecting a savings in our regional center budget of $45 million. What we're proposing to do with that savings is transfer that money, that savings, from the regional center side to the developmental center side to be able to repay CMS. We have language, provisional language in the Budget Act that allows us to make transfers of funds between the regional centers and the developmental centers and vice versa. So that's what this proposal attempts to do. And so those are the areas that I wanted to highlight, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you. Any other panelists going to be presenting on this, or anything from LAO?
Thank you. We've reviewed the proposals and have no issues to raise at this time, pending any updates that may revise.
Department of Finance? Okay. Anyone, any committee members? Assembly Member Chu? Okay. Okay, public comment. Please come forward.
Mr. Chair, Kobe Pozzati with California Associations of Psychiatric Technicians. We'd just like to raise one issue with the staffing adjustments. The 63.1 level of care decrease for the direct level of care individuals. DDS, DSH, and CDCR and Veterans Affairs nursing staff have worked 3.7 million hours of overtime this last year. While this incredible amount of overtime is being worked by the nursing staff and the direct level of care providers, we think it's not appropriate to be decreasing direct level of care staff at this time. Maybe at a future time when the census goes down and drops even further. But at this point, it doesn't make any sense to continue to decrease staff while the overtime levels are so incredibly high. So with that, we oppose that portion of the budget.
Thank you.
Mr. Bonta, Mr. Chu, Rick Rollins, Association of Regional Center Agencies. I'd like to address my comments on page 17, which are the comments made by Mr. Doyle at the end of his presentation about the $42 million reappropriation. As you're aware, in the regional center system, the regional centers are allocated a finite number of dollars each year by the state through the Department of Developmental Services to provide services through the vendorization process by our providers throughout the state to serve people with developmental disabilities. And it's a finite number of dollars that are allocated, and the regional centers under contract have to live within that budget. And on rare occasion, particularly recently, there's extra money that is not spent because when you're dealing with a $6 billion budget and you're living within that budget, there's always, under normal circumstances, money left over. So this $42 million that's being discussed here really would be money that would revert back to the general fund. We understand that, but we object to the idea of taking money from the regional center side or the community side of the system and backfilling the developmental center issues on the audit. That money should be taken from the general fund, and if there's money left over in this year's allocation, it ought to be reinvested in the community for new program development to address the many needs unmet needs that we have in our community. Your analysis did a nice job on page 17 outlining many of these issues, including the report that ARCA did that sustains what I just presented. Thank you.
Thank you. See no additional public comment. Deputy Director Doyle, two interesting points made by both of our members of the public on public comment. Any responses to those?
Well, first to address the issue of the overtime, I think that we're looking at this strictly from a department perspective. We're not looking at broadly from how overtime requirements are hitting state hospitals, veterans' homes, things. We're looking specifically at the developmental centers, and based on our analysis, we think this is an appropriate adjustment. Regarding the issue that Mr. Rollins raised on the developmental center audits, while we appreciate the issues that we've heard from the community, we understand that there are concerns about existing rates, the need to be able to hire and pay staff at appropriate levels. We do think that the developmental services package that the legislature put through during the special session will go a long way to meeting a lot of those needs. And we think that given that we have an estimated savings in the regional center budget, we think it's appropriate to use the authority that currently exists to allow us to move the money between the regional center budget and the developmental center budget to meet an immediate need so that we can repay CMS.
Okay, thank you. The arguments and points on both sides of these issues are noted, and we're going to be holding this issue open. So we're prepared to go to the next and final issue, the spring finance letter.
Thank you. The department submitted a spring finance letter requesting $2.2 million approximately to provide funding to the Department of General Services so that they could contract to do an assessment of our Sonoma campus. We believe that an assessment is necessary for a couple of reasons. We want to have a more clear understanding of the infrastructure and get a better idea of what kind of shape that's in. We have definite concerns about all of the infrastructure systems, so power, water, sewer, storm drains. We have concerns in all those areas, so we think an assessment will be beneficial in giving us an up-to-date picture of what those things look like, as well as the value of the property. So it will be useful as we move forward with discussions on how to repurpose the land and what kinds of options are available on the site. As the agenda correctly notes, that the department redirected in the current year $190,000 to begin the first phase of this study, and that first phase includes an environmental site assessment and a historical assessment. The remaining funds that we're requesting, the 2.2, will be used for the second and third phases of the project. The second phase will be looking at architectural issues, engineering issues. It'll continue the environmental study in more detail. They'll be doing a market and economic analysis of the property, and they'll also be doing an analysis of traffic patterns. The third phase is when they will perform the master planning, so they'll be looking at the alternatives that might be available and lay those out as part of the master plan.
Great, thank you. Anything from LAO?
We've reviewed the proposal and have no concerns.
Okay, DOF? Okay, thank you. Any comments from members of the public? Public comment? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for your engagement and participation in today's hearing. We're adjourned. Thank you.